Okay, now we'll begin our webinar. So actually, today what the topic we'll be covering is actually 6 trading patterns with CFD. I think we covered this topic previously a few months back, but because of the demand, right, we'll be actually carry out this topic again. So actually, what we'll be covering, right, because before we actually use this type of trading pattern, we need to understand what are some of the technical analysis that we need to understand: support, resistance, trend line, RSI, and MACD. So we'll do a short recap. After that, we'll go into the 6 different trading patterns. Then follow up, we'll end with so-called analysis of the market. Then later, you all can suggest some counter that you are interested to find out more. So I think everyone know about support resistance. So actually in financial market, right, it's always about supply and demand. So when there's excessive supply, means that there's more people who are wanting to sell their shares. So actually the share price will come down. When there's excessive demand, right, means that there are more people are willing to buy, so the share price will go up. So support level is actually where a downward trend can be expected to pause due to the concentration of demand. This means that a lot of buyers are waiting at this price to buy. Resistance, when it reaches the resistance, upward trend can be expected to pause due to a concentration of supply. Means that there are a lot of sellers waiting to sell at that price. So this will form the resistance level. And also other than support and resistance, right? Because those are horizontal line. But sometimes we also found that there's actually trend line. Means it's actually an upward trend or downward trend. So this is actually how a trend line look, upward trend and the downward trend. So if normally I just give a single chart, right? How many of you actually can be done? I think the webinar is done with audio. I think can everyone hear just to test? Because I think one of the person is facing issue. Hello, mic test. Okay, then I think I'll continue. Maybe for the person who are facing issue, maybe you want to check your audios. Okay, so we go back to you just look at the chart. If without giving you anything, right, are you able to actually identify the support and resistance level? Anyone want to try to give some price that you think where is support resistance? So normally for support and resistance, right, you look at where the price range touch the most. And also take note that support and resistance is not just an absolute number like $3, $2. It's usually a range of. So let's say we see this actually is a potential $2 is actually a support and resistance level. It's also a psychological whole number. So any number that is whole number like 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, right, is a psychological support and resistance because everyone will be looking at or want to buy at the whole number. So this is actually what the whole number that we place on ourselves. After that, we see actually this point they also touch quite often. Next, this point they also come to touch. So after identifying all these points, right, you can actually just draw the line so you can find out all the potential support and resistance level. So you can see actually this is actually a strong support level. Then this all these are potential support and resistance level. So once it flip up and come down, right, this will become actually a support level ready. So sometimes chart wise, right, actually you can see sometimes it can be also trend line, means it's an upward trend, and here Singda has been on a downward trend. So you can see that is other than support resistance, you can use trend line. So what we are trading, when you are trading in trend line, what we want to buy at the bottom of the trend line and sell at the top of the trend line. So this is how actually we can practice trading strategy. So when you are doing so-called after identify support and resistance, you need to use some indicators. So some of the basic indicators there are two type of indicators. One is leading and one is lagging. So for leading indicators, right, they actually try to predict the future movement. But sometimes there's downside to this because when they try to predict, so they can actually give you a false breakout. Means that you think that they are going to actually break this resistance going to the next support, suddenly they actually go downward. So some of these leading are actually RSI, or stochastic oscillator. Lagging indicators, right, will be actually following the price movement and use as a confirmation tools. So actually it will give you a signal after the price change form a trend. But sometimes when you use this, right, you may actually enter the position late and miss out the gain. So some of these lagging indicators are actually moving average and MACD. Like moving average, people will be looking at maybe looking long term 50, 100, 200. So there are different types of moving average. So for all these indicators, right, there's some default parameters, but because everyone have different trading strategy, you may want to actually optimize your own indicators. So we talk about RSI. So it's actually a momentum indicator to help you to tell you whether the stock is actually overbought or oversold. So this is how we do the calculation. Luckily, we do not need to do all this calculation. So actually the default parameters is actually 14. So some of us actually we might do adjustment to our so-called our own trading strategy. Then maybe you find maybe 21 or other numbers that is actually more suitable after back testing our strategy. So later I also show you inside the points chart how you can actually change some of these parameters. So in general, we know that above 70 is overbought, means that a lot of people have been buying it. Below 30 is actually oversold. However, we do not just use overbought or oversold to actually trade the indicators alone. So there are some ways to actually use with RSI to do trading. So RSI trend line, RSI trend line break, and RSI divergence. So these are okay. So some of these chart, right, is actually quite an old chart, but you can still use it as a study on how to do it. So you can see that actually for Apple, right, it's actually from here you can see actually it's going on upward trend. So actually using these 2 points, you can actually plot the trend line. So what you want to do? So we want to actually buy when actually you upward trend. You want to buy when actually there's a from the trend line you actually start to bounce upward. Then you continue trading the trend. So okay, later we'll show more example first. Then for trend line breaks, you can see actually Tencent previously has been on an downward trend. I think because of during that period there's quite a lot uncertainty, and now you can see Tencent actually the current price is around close to 500 plus or almost around 600 plus. So you can see actually during this period the RSI has been forming a new low, forming a trend line downward. So subsequently, when you actually see a reversal breakup of this trend line, right, you can see actually the price start to continue to move upward. So if you look carefully in the pattern, right, there's also an inverted head and shoulder. Here's a shoulder, head, shoulder, subsequently break this, the neckline, you can form upward trend. So that's how we actually incorporate different strategy. You look at trend line, you look at RSI, you look at actually trading patterns and incorporate them to actually provide us a better trading. Downward trend, after a break, yeah, it's an upward trend. So next thing is actually RSI divergence. So there's a bullish diversion and a bearish diversion. So for bullish diversion, it's actually help you to actually identify that it's end of the downward trend and you will actually subsequently move upward. Bearish or same kind of end of the bullish trend. So what we see is actually when the price start to drop lower and form a new low, but the SSI start to go higher, means that actually they are losing the seller are actually losing momentum already. So buyers are actually starting to come in. So that's why you see actually a higher low. Then for the bearish diversion, price start to move higher, but actually the RSI start to move lower, means that actually there's lack of buyer momentum already. So seller are actually starting to come in. So this signifies the end of this bullish trend. So same thing, just now you look at the Tencent, right? Actually you can see, right, other than the trend line break, there's also actually a diversion, bullish diversion. So you just now see inverted head and shoulder trend line break. Now you see actually the price actually drop lower, but RSI start to move higher. So you can see that actually you use all these different indicators, right? Actually they all show you the same will tell you the same direction. So usually when you use maybe around 3 to 4 different indicators, if usually what you do is that if most of them actually are going towards the same direction, then you can actually start to set a buy. After that, you set a stop loss and you can let the profits chew on. So Apple chart, just now we talked about RSI has been going up, buy, let's say we buy over here. So now we want to look out when to actually really exit. So you can see actually over here, there's actually price start to move higher, but the RSI actually start to move lower. So this actually means that they are losing momentum already. The buyer actually getting weaker. So that's why you can see subsequently you have shown a trend and it start to go downward. So other than RSI, right, there's also MACD. So actually MACD is actually a relationship between two moving average security. Okay, why I choose RSI and MACD is actually very simple to use because there are a lot other indicators out there, but these two actually, if you use these two, right, continue to practice, actually it's quite easy to use. There are some indicators they give you very complicated signal and it's very tough to use. So personally, I like to use RSI and MACD other than support, resistance, and the trading patterns. So it's calculated by subtracting the 1226 period EMA from the 12 period EMA. Then the 9, there's also a 9 EMA of the MACD is known as the signal line. So MACD will help you to trigger signal when it's actually cross above to buy or below to sell. Crossover are more reliable when they conform to the existing trend. Let's say it's an upward trend, we'll prefer to actually trade with the trend MACD crossing upward. If it's a downward trend, the MACD crossing downward. So same thing, there are different ways of trading MACD, crossover with trend line, MACD divergent, these two ways. So same thing, Apple again. You can see at first we see actually form two trend. So you can look out for any MACD that's actually moving upward. From there, actually you consider a buy. So all these are actually buying opportunities because you want to actually go with the trend. So you don't want to actually go down with the trend because sometimes you can see, for example, actually from here you can see actually MACD is actually going downward, but subsequently you can see that price actually didn't really go down much and continue to move upward. So that's why we actually prefer to trade with the trend and against the trend. Same thing for MACD divergent. When price become lower, the MACD actually start to become higher. Then bearish divergent, price become higher, MACD start to become lower. So same thing for the Apple chart again, price become higher, but the MACD actually become lower. So you can see just now we talk about RSI, bearish diversion, MACD bearish diversion. So in this case, actually we can see that actually all these are actually confirm that there's actually a trend reversal already. I just need to use two signal and these two signal actually giving me the same direction. If sometimes there's a mixture, one give me positive, one give me negative, sometimes I rather don't take that trade. So I think we talk about Alibaba. So some of these chart may not be updated. Later we can look into the latest Alibaba because we see that Alibaba have moved much higher. So first thing, you look out for all the support and resistance level. You draw our line so you can see all the potential support and resistance level over here. So you can see actually during April, right, Alibaba have a crash, but subsequently you can see actually it come down to test a support level and subsequently actually reverse. So using this, you also can look at MACD cross upward. So this is actually during the April period, that's really a good buying opportunity. And if you actually draw the trend line, you can see actually it has been bouncing about this trend line. So this one is also another using trend line. You can see actually over here is actually an opportunity. One thing just now you mentioned, support and resistance is not an absolute number. Sometimes you can see actually support resistance, right, absolute number or absolute level. You can see actually it's a band. It's not like, although we draw just a straight line, but in reality, right, it's actually a band. It's not just a line by itself. So you can actually exceed a bit or can just like touch. So that's why you can see this trend line, right, is almost exceed a bit, but subsequently you can see actually close above and go upward. So other than trading, right, you also need to understand trading discipline, risk reward ratio, capital to risk per trade, and stop loss for every trade. So maybe I just do a short description about. So when we are trading, right, risk reward, right. So one of the things is that we consider what is the potential gain that I get from here and what is the potential loss. So before I enter a trade, I want to look out for favorable risk reward. I don't want to take like $10 to actually take a $10 risk to take actually a $1 profit. It doesn't make sense for me also. So I usually look out for risk reward ratio where maybe it's more favorable around 2 times, like it's $2 of profit to $1 of loss. So you need to actually measure this risk reward ratio. Another thing is that other than looking at risk reward ratio, you may want to also study what is your winning percentage. So you want to actually just now I mentioned one thing is that sometimes when signal actually indicators give a mixture of signal and I do not know whether to take or not, because some signal may show me bullish sign, some may show me bearish sign. So in this case, maybe I will not take the trade at all because this one will actually lower my winning probability also. And for capital to risk per trade is actually like, for example, you have $10,000. If you actually make a trade on the first trade, you actually lose $200. So actually you lose 2%. And to gain back to the $10,000, you need just to make a gain from existing capital around 2.14% to gain back to the $10,000. However, if you are trading actually, let's say your first trade, you lose 10,000, you lose 2,000, 20%. So from your existing 8,000, right, you want to gain back the 2,000, it's actually 25%. So that's why it's actually important to actually limit the capital to risk per trade. And most people actually don't really follow that. We see quite a lot of clients actually do that. They just put 100% on one trade and they don't actually so-called set their stop loss. So these three things are very important if you want to actually do a proper trading. Also, so far we see only most clients don't follow all this, but we always try to advise them. So one thing is that when you are doing all this, right, you can actually write down in the Excel sheet or somewhere in your books that you monitor how actually you do trading. Then from there, you can actually do a review. So whether your trading strategy is really working or not. If it's not, maybe you want to start to backtest your strategy, fine tune it before you continue to do trading. So now we'll go to the main topic for today. First, we'll talk about ascending wedges and falling wedges, round bottom, teacup, head and shoulder, and flag and pendant. So ascending wedges and falling wedges is actually a trend line formed by forming two or more price points. So wedges is actually a price point marked by the conversion trend line on a price chart. I think we talk about all this, you may not understand. So maybe anyone want to make a guess what would we call this? So usually we saw two parallel line. What do you call this? Just now, I think during start of the webinar, actually I shared this. Not sure anyone can. Okay, I think some of you actually get it correct. This one is called a channel. So it's not, channel is actually not a ascending or falling wedges. So this is a called channel. So there's an upward channel and the downward channel. So what if it's an upward channel, you want to buy at the bottom and sell at the top, then you just continue trading the bottom pattern. If it's actually a downward channel, you sell at the top, then you substitute short at the top, then you buy back at the bottom. Next, what will you call this? Anyone to try to make a guess? So it's actually two converging line. I think some of you actually get it. So actually, because you see it's actually forming an upward, so it's actually what you call ascending wedges. So this is actually a form of showing an indication that there's potential price reversal. So let's say if it actually suddenly break down, actually is a sign of trend reversal. Next one will be two converging line also, but it's actually pointing downwards. What it's called is actually a descending wedges. So we just take it to a Hong Kong index. So actually, if you trade Hong Kong index, right, on a daily basis, you can see the price movement. Not like STI is pretty. Sometimes there's a lot of movement, sometimes there's not. But for this one, actually for Hong Kong, right, index, right, you can see actually the price movement is actually more volatile. It's actually more suitable for people who are actually doing daily trading. So you can see you saw these 3 points, you plot the line, you saw another point. So actually this one is actually ascending wedges. So subsequently actually you break down from this, right? You can see actually you go all the way downward trend. So you can see that using all this trading pattern, right, you can find actually opportunities. And also other than this, you can also see actually there's so-called price actually start to become higher, but the RSI become lower. So this one is actually another sign of bearish reversion, diversion. Then we also see MACD cross down. So subsequently, we see that actually they break this trend line. Then we will do a short here. Then subsequently we can capture the opportunities. So you can see there's actually all these indicators, right? If they are pointing the same direction, right, it give you a higher probability of actually doing a better trade. If it's actually, let's say, if I see only 2 is actually bullish, 2 is bearish, maybe this trade I will not take at all, because if I do not know whether my trade is actually going to have a higher probability of winning. And sometimes, most importantly, because sometimes there's also adverse news, like suddenly Trump do a tweet or this. So it's also important for us to actually set a stop loss. So usually what I do is stop loss, maybe I'll set the highest point here, then set a stop loss. So stop loss, you can use the normal OCO order, or you can means one cancel the other order. Either you reach the take profit, then you cancel the stop loss, or you hit the stop loss and cancel the take profit order, or you can actually use trailing stop loss order, where you can continue to trade downward. So next one is talk about USD Sing. So you draw, after you draw all this line. So you can see actually this is another wedges pattern. So subsequently, right, can see actually MACD start to cross upward, and they do a breakout from this. There's actually a long opportunities already. From there, you can see consider a long position upward. Then I also, no matter what trade, I always put the stop loss in case actually the trend really suddenly reverse. So next one, we'll go to round bottom. Round bottom and T-cup are quite similar. So round bottom, as the shape suggests, is actually a U shape, and it's actually an indication of a positive market reversal from a bearish to bullish. So you can see you like to eat ramen. You can see actually this is actually a round bottom, what we call a bowl shape. So this is a price. So let's say it's a downward trend bearish. So that means that actually bearish means that there's a lot of seller trying to sell. So when it actually reach the bottom, start to see actually buyers start to come in. Then when it break above the previous resistance, then actually the price continue to move upward. So this is actually how it actually show a reversal. So Alibaba, right, you can see actually this one is also a quite old chart, but this is actually quite a long-term round bottom. You can see subsequently listed, then actually the price has been in the round bottom state for quite a period of time. So from here, you actually form the resistance level. Then subsequently, when you start to break out, you can see there's an increasing of volume. So subsequently, you can see it break up, and now I think it's moving high, even higher. So Alibaba is actually a so-called shares that I would say that there's quite a lot interesting to learn about this, and also potential shares that can further grow. So breakout from the previous resistance is actually a long opportunity. And sometimes you want to set a stop loss, maybe you want to set from the previous swing. Then how we actually calculate our potential profit. So let's say the round bottom, right, you take from the height of this 120, around 120 minus 57.2. So from here to here is around 62.8. Then from the breakout point, you take 120 plus the height of the bottom to add potential take profit level will be around here, this level. So this is how you actually set our stop loss and take profit position. So T-cup will be slightly quite similar, but however, it do not straight away break out. It will go into actually a correction stage. So excessive supply, then buyers start to drop price, come down, buyers start to enter. However, one thing is that about round bottom and teacup, right? If it's a round bottom, when you actually approach the resistance and break out, right, you can see that actually the momentum, the volume, all this start to increase. However, when for a teacup wise, usually when see that actually start to approach this, right, the momentum start to slow down and you go into a so-called correction stage. Then after that, subsequently break out from the correction stage, then go higher. So this is actually a go chart. So I actually identified there's a resistance level. You can see actually tested many times, unable, then you go into actually so-called form a round bottom. But when it start to go up, actually they didn't straight away break out. There's lose the momentum already. Then you can see losing of momentum, then go into a correction state and subsequently break out with actually I think I don't have any volume here. So when it's actually break out, you can see actually the price, the candlestick strength of the candlestick also quite strong. So subsequently you can see actually it start to move upward. So this is actually the handle. Then once it break out on long opportunities already. Then what you want to set a potential stop loss. So we'll use maybe a bottom of this handle as a potential stop loss. Next thing will be head and shoulder. So it's very simple. You just take a look at stand in front of the mirror. You see your head and your shoulder. I think this one is pretty much straightforward. So it's actually referred to three peak, with the middle peak being the highest. But do take note, there's also inverted head and shoulder, because head and shoulder is actually, I show you the shape. So these are the shoulders, the head, and the right shoulder. So it's actually believed to be one of the most reliable trend reversal pattern. So you can see price start to go up. So when there's excessive supply, means that there are a lot of people trying to sell, then they actually go downward. Then subsequent at the neckline, people start to enter again. Then this time the price start to move higher, then the excessive supply try to move. But subsequently you can see actually they really lose the momentum already. Once it actually break down from the neckline, it's actually a short opportunities. So Apple, just now we actually show Apple there's a long-term upward trend. We zoom in further to see. This is actually the shoulder, the head, and the shoulder. So one thing is that for head and shoulder, right, sometimes the shoulder may not be exactly balanced. Sometimes it may be a bit higher, sometimes it may be a lower. So that's why it tend to be a bit complicated also. And the neckline sometimes may not be actually, the shoulder may not be symmetrical, and sometimes it actually may be a slanted head and shoulder pattern. However, just now we mentioned that we look out for this also, losing of the momentum using RSI, the bearish diversion. The diversion. Once you break out, you can do a short, then maybe you can use actually the head as a potential stop loss and let this continue downward. Same thing just now we say inverted head and shoulder 10 cent. So shoulder, head, shoulder, inverted head, shoulder. Then we also see that actually there's a bullish diversion in the RSI. Then subsequently actually they break this neck level, can actually continue long-term upward trend. We come to the last portion of this trading patterns. So for this type of patterns, right, one is actually a fact, another one is actually a pendant. So usually it's actually an indication of continuous pattern. Price enter into a consolidation phase, consolidation with decreasing volume. Once actually they break out, right, the volume also increase. Then subsequently actually break. But sometimes there's also, later I'll show you. So sometimes this I would say that this trend there's a, sometimes you can see actually they show a reversal, and this one become actually a so-called double bottom instead of actually moving downward. So that's why for this type of pattern, right, is I would say that I prefer to not straight away short, take a risk short somewhere over here. I would prefer actually when they really break out and with higher increasing volume, then I will take the trade. So sometimes can be actually a reversal. So for sets, I think sets actually recently have quite a lot movement, especially with the all these so-called pharmaceutical drugs they announced promising in this COVID-19 cures. So actually sets has moved up significantly, and also looking at their capability that they are able to do so-called so-called shifting of the logistic in very low temperature. So actually price, I think sets now is around $4 is something that I'm going to be looking out for. So you can see they go into a trading pattern on the bottom. So actually form into actually a frag, the rectangle box. So subsequently they actually break down. You can see actually when they break down, right, there's increasing volume. So something can actually go downwards. So this is one pattern that you can look at. So increasing volume, short opportunities. Then what you want to set a stop loss, you use this upper trend line to do a stop loss. So maybe I've actually come towards the end of this webinar, but before that, let's do some charting. So far there's no, let me take a look at the Q&A first, then before you go into the live charting. This webinar will be recorded. You can actually view it. I think the webinar will be actually uploaded. Later we'll tell you where to look out for. And also, so later we'll share all this information. Then how to actually identify a false breakout or confirm a real breakout. So if you actually see a false breakout, sometimes you can see the volume is actually very low. So this is actually one of the indicators I also look out for. Another way is sometimes you also want to actually set a stop loss, because in case of sign trend is a false breakout, you can actually help you to actually protect your capital. Someone has asked, is horizontal resistance or support level more important or pattern more important indicators? Actually, I would say that both are, all these are actually important because if it's help me to actually identify, because let's say I use support resistance, I use trading pattern, I use MACD, I use RSI. So actually if trees are actually going tell me that this trend is moving, then actually I'll most likely take the trade. However, if 2 is actually showing me that it's a bullish trend, 2 is showing me it's actually a bearish trend, then maybe I wouldn't even take this kind of trade at all. I want to take a higher probability of this trade. So I think some of us have been looking some counters. So let me go open the points first. So I think city development, someone has suggested that. City development is actually a property developer. I would say that in Singapore there are a few prominent developer, Far East, City Development, CapitaLand. So you can see over here there's so there's around close to $6 as a potential support level. Then previously, let me see. So actually you can see that this one is actually trying to do a breakout. So you have next thing you may want to look is actually volume also. So what you want to take a look out, if it's actually breaking this resistance level with increasing volume, then there's opportunity that can go further upwards. Currently, I would say that it's trending inside this trading pattern, moving here, then correction. So this one will be keeping a lookout whether it actually break out with actually increasing resistance. If it actually do a breakout, I think the next few potential support resistance level you can see over here. You can try to identify over here there's some resistance level you can go to here. Then next one actually you can see actually can potentially go to all these previous support resistance level. However, this one you keep a lookout, so in case they actually fail to breakout, we may go into correction. But I think that for this city development, right, looking at the fundament, because for city development, they do a lot property, and quite a lot portion is actually in hospitality, so that's why they are also affected. Also recent with the recent internal issue with city development, so that's why actually the price actually go downward. Unlike capital land, you can see actually price start to actually move upward because they have announced their long-term plan. So sometimes other than trading, right, I also look into I look a lot into fundamental also. I understand what is happening behind the company. So currently I will wait for any clear breakout sign with increasing volume, then these are the potential so-called resistance level to actually take profit. Next one I think I saw is actually Capital Corp. Okay, maybe before I go into Capital Corp, so just now we talked about optimizing your trading strategy. Like because you see actually default is 14. So some people, right, may do a bit of adjustment to see maybe 21 actually fit their trading strategy. For me, I just use the default. You can see they do explanation 9, 14, and 25 are popular. So people actually do optimize on their own. And also just now you mentioned that below 30 is actually oversold, over 70 is overbought. So some people, they do also optimize on their own. They do use 20/80. So you can see actually people also do their own optimization of all these indicators. Okay, now we go to Capital Corp. Okay, let me see. You can see actually Capital Corp over here, right? They should actually so-called price start to drop a bit lower, but actually the RSI momentum start to go higher. So subsequently actually they continue upward. So here actually there's a so-called diversion over here. It's a bullish diversion. You can see over here, RSI at first is low, but subsequently you can see the seller actually start to lose their momentum already. Now we will keep a lookout for potential. So let me see. That's our next support resistance level. There's also not very clear support resistance level. Maybe sometimes I may want to open a longer time frame. Okay. So actually open time frame, there's some support resistance level over here. You can see over here, actually this is one of the potential support resistance level. Maybe I'll open shorter a bit. When I open too much data, sometimes lag a bit also. So you can see over here, there's some potential support resistance level. So if you are opening bigger data, right, what you want to do, maybe you want to optimize, maybe you do a weekly or monthly. So this one will become, it won't have to load so much data, then actually it won't become so laggy. So you can see over here, there's potential support resistance. So if we actually able to actually break this potential support resistance level, next level you can potentially go up to around next resistance level, maybe around close to around $6. That's you can see the next potential support resistance level is around this price, 5.8. Okay, so someone has actually asked, is there any ideal solution or period to do analysis? So I would say that there's no ideal analysis. Let's say if you are intraday trader, maybe what you want to do is you want to actually open the position and close the position within the day. So what you want to do, maybe you'll be looking at instead of around 15 minutes, 1 hour. However, if you're actually doing so-called swing trader, means maybe you'll be holding a position from a few days up to a few weeks. Maybe you're looking in terms of 1 hour, 4 hour, or daily. However, if you're a position trader, right, then you'll be actually, because you're holding the position for a longer period of time. So in this case, like for example, this we are looking at this, right, actually it's more of a position trade, means actually a long-term trade. So that's why it's depending whether what kind of trader you are. From there, you can actually identify, and also whether your actually trading strategy really fit into this time frame also. Okay, next we go into some of the counters that maybe you go to Alibaba. I think Alibaba is something. Sorry. So actually, I prefer to look at the US one because I have been actually looking at the US one. So you can see actually. Okay, another thing is that if you want to zoom in, right, you can actually click the mouse from the left to the right side. You have it zoom in. You want to zoom out, you just click from the right to the left. So from here you can see actually how it actually work out. So Alibaba, everyone knows is that they have been actually affected. They okay, maybe you draw some trend first. So so actually when they actually really come to visit this trend, right, it's actually so I would say that it's actually opportunities. So you can see actually during the April period, right, actually, okay, I do think that my drawing is not so good, so but it's, you can see actually they visit this trend and show a reversal. So this is actually a good opportunity during April. So subsequently actually move upward. So Alibaba has been doing quite a lot different. So one we know most common is actually e-commercial. Next one is actually crowd. I would say that crowd is actually one of their faster growing business, and it's growing around 60%. So you can see actually this one is, and currently their crowd business, right, is still loss making. And we actually heard that some of the management, they mentioned that crowd business for Alibaba will be actually expected to break even in 2021. So this is something that we also keep a lookout for. So next thing is that we want to look out for potential opportunity to actually enter into this Alibaba. So maybe I will go into a shorter time frame. So you can see Alibaba has been. So some of the levels that I'll be looking out for will be around this level. So you can see some support level. Maybe you go, because we are going to take a lower position. So there are some potential support resistance level that we expect them to actually test. So you can see around 240. Do think that support resistance is always the region. It's not a absolute number. So something can exceed, something knows. But you can see actually there are some potential support level over here. So for Alibaba wise now is still on downward trend. Maybe I will take a look around 240 region to see whether this support really holds. Then subsequently ride the wave up. And next one you can see next support level will be around this level over here. Okay. Okay, someone asked how do we actually set a stop loss after entering a trade into points. So maybe where's maybe choose, let me see, go back to some of the counter just so we take a look first. Okay. So let's say we I think give me a moment. So let's say we are trading CFD. So let's say I enter a position at 7.44. So I have already long position at 7.44. So I need to set a stop loss. And let me open up my chart again. So maybe I stop loss, I decided my stop loss is $7. So what I want to do, so there are, just now mentioned there's a few different stop loss. So first one, so let's say it's $7. So maybe I just want to set a stop price, $7, then stop. So there's a trigger. Because if you are using limit order, let's say I key 7, the order will be actually straight away done because there's actually a better price to fulfill this order. So in this case, I need to set a stop loss where the trigger, right, let's say 7.01. So when the price actually come down to 7.01, this is not the actual order. The actual order is this limit price order where we actually go into the market. Then for me, help me to cut loss at $7. So this is actually a stop loss. Let's say if I want to actually take profit at the same time, just now I entered at 7.44. So maybe what I say $8 I want to take a profit. At the same time, I can set my stop loss at the same time. So when the price actually move up to $8, they take profit. This stop loss cancel. However, if actually move down to this stop loss, the take profit level will cancel. So this is I would say that very useful tools to use OCO orders. It's actually available for CFD. So for CFD wise, we have actually much more different type of order. Previously, our webinar, we actually have some webinar on different type of order where you do further more explanation. So in case you want to actually see how to see our past recordings, right, you can go to actually Phillip CFD education. I share this inside the chat. So our past webinar, all this, right, we'll be actually sharing over here. The stop loss, actually we did have I can't remember. Okay, so-called a trader guide too. So we actually have a 1 hour plus webinar just to explain on different type of order type. So this one is something that you can come over here to take a look. Okay, maybe we go back to the topic first. Okay, someone actually asked, what is a day order and GTD? So day order is actually just for today. So the order, if it's not done by today, then it will be cancelled. Then GTD is actually up. You can set the order up to the 1 month time frame where you can actually use good to a certain date. We do have actually good to cancel order. It's actually good to certain date that you set inside the time frame. Okay, let me see. For trailing stop loss, maybe I do a short explanation of trailing stop. Because I don't have the so-called example to show here. So trailing stop loss, let's say, let me open up the chart. So trailing stop loss will be actually useful when they are moving in a channel. And for example, it's a downward. So I'll set my, let's say I enter a trade short over here, then I'll set my stop loss. So every time we actually the price move over or this way, actually the stop loss will follow. And in this case, if it's actually going a downward trend or this way, actually this one will also help me to protect my capital. And also, let's say in case the price suddenly reverse, right, also help me to secure the profit. So if you want more in-depth example, maybe you can visit the previous webinar recording that is short. I do have an example now, I can't remember. So that's why maybe you want to visit the previous recording. Okay, I think someone is asking about sets. Sets wise, I think now I previously actually see this actually is trading inside this range bar before actually signing in breakout. So actually $4, you can see $4 is actually a support resistance level, subsequent breakout, right? The next potential level is actually over here, but you can I see that you can be careful that when you start to actually lose momentum, because actually there's not much support and resistance level in this whole area. So it's actually can be quite risky also when there's price suddenly reverse also. So I'll say that for set wise, right, next resistance level to keep a lookout is around 4.37 around this level. Maybe I open up a longer time frame to see. Yeah, you can see actually sets hasn't been has been actually quite established. So let me open up. Yeah, so $4 will be $4 here will be around the support resistance. Next one will be around 4.37. So you can see from the past we can bring forward. So these are the levels that we keep a lookout for. So I would say that for sets wise is actually I don't see any in terms of risk reward ratio is actually not attractive for me to do any trade already. So I won't take any position in this. For me, actually, I have already. For me, another thing is I actually have personal holdings already over this level here, so I'll just hold on. But for me, it's actually more of a fundamental view because I believe that for asset is actually quite a stock that I can hold when the tourism actually start to recover rather than taking position in airlines. Okay, someone has actually asked, how about equity order? So actually equity orders, what you can see actually they will compare. Equity orders, they only have a limit order and stop limit order. They don't have more advanced order, OCO, all this. If you actually want to use equity to trade, right, advanced order, right, you need to actually download Mercury, Points Mercury. So Points Mercury will give you actually more advanced order type. However, I would say that Mercury wise may not be suitable for everyone because it requires a desktop instead of where you can trade on a mobile with CFD with all these advanced order really. So there are some difference. So for Points platform, right, you only have limited orders. Okay, let me see what other question that we have. Okay, I think there's someone asking about CapitaLand. So I would say that CapitaLand, if you are looking at the fundamental side of CapitaLand, first of all, I think I share inside the Telegram group why I'm actually looking into this stock, right? First of all, is actually okay. We go to one thing. We go to give me a moment. You can go to actually SGX stock screener. You can find a lot of information over here, useful information. Currently, actually, the price to book ratio for me is actually quite attractive. Next thing is that actually I look what is actually the ownership or the shareholder. So Temasek is holding around 51%. So I would say that this actually they are holding this. So actually, CapitaLand is actually the sponsor for quite a lot of REITs. You talk about Ascenders, Escort, CapitaLand, Integrated Trust, all this. So you can see actually it's very strong property development. They do not have just exposure in Singapore. They also have overseas exposure in Vietnam and in China. And for China wise, right, they are going to actually expand. So this is actually the fundamental side of the CapitaLand. So for me, trading wise in trading stock, I'm more of a position trader. Means I look out for longer term. Because for us it's quite hard to do trading daily, so we usually do trading when you're going for long term. So let me open up the chat. So if I'm looking for long term, maybe I'll look at weekly a few years. So you can see actually CapitaLand now is actually trading around 2.93. I think the nearest resistance level will be actually around $3. $3 is always also a psychological whole numbers. You can see actually it has been quite resistant over here. So subsequently break out, then the next level I will keep a lookout for it. around this level. You can see actually potential support resistance level over here. So I would say that for CapitaLand wise, if you are looking for long-term position trade, you can actually consider CapitaLand. It's still quite attractive over here. Then how to actually join the Telegram group first? Let me see. Okay, let me share this first. Then in case anyone have any question, right, type in under the Q&A portion. GTP. This is a Telegram group, so usually we do a lot active sometimes we do active discussion as anyone want to ask question, because webinar we don't hold so-called frequently, but in case at any point of time you all want to ask question, right, you can just ask inside Telegram group. Sometimes I reply that everyone will also can feel free to share your ideas inside over here. So so-called someone has mentioned that is worried about this CapitaLand CRCT. Actually, if you search for CRCT, there's actually okay, before you go into CRCT, right, you understand CapitaLand first. So actually CapitaLand already announced the intent to grow their Chinese new economy asset from currently 1.5 billion to actually 5 billion. Quite a lot of advertisement. So what they do, they want to Google their asset wise. So that's why CRCT, right, has been designed as the group real estate investment REITs for all this. So next thing you can see is CRCT actually going to do more acquisition. They want to actually raise around 300 millions for all this acquisition. I will expect CRCT going down the few years, right? Because to grow from 1.5 to 5, right? One of them is through CRCT, and CapitaLand wise, right? They actually might need to actually free up more, might need more capital to grow their asset wise. So they are proposing to finance in Business Park and the Guangzhou Mall. So I expect they are going to raise fund, whether is it right issue or private placement or preference offering. So this is what they are intending to do. That's why there's a trading halt for this CRCT. For long-term wise, I would say that China-wise, I will expect them to actually continue to grow. They may not be growing as fast as in the past, but because you can see that there's quite a lot of manufacturing plants still in China. So I expect them to grow, especially in the logistics side. So I think for CapitaLand and also CRTZ, they may be able to get the benefit from this. So I think, let me see how the article, I remember the article mentioned about all this business part of the acquisition already. So this is actually what is talk about CRCT. And sometimes if you want to actually find out all the different analyst view, right? Actually, there's one website quite useful, that SG Investor.io. I always use this website to find out all this fundamental view. So let's say I'm interested in Singapore stock CapitaLand. I just go to stock CapitaLand. There's CapitaLand here. So they actually tell me the share price of all the different analysts. Then from there, you also need to think note, because some of them may not be upgraded. So you can see actually, I would say that most of the analysts are also quite positive about CapitaLand, except for UOB Kay Hian. Then from there, you can, if you want to read up, quite a lot of advertisement. From here, you can read out all the different analyst reports, then understand why they actually give certain views. So this is actually a useful website for Singapore stock, all the Singapore stock and the REITs. So someone actually asked me for my position time frame, right, what I actually, because I'm more of a long term, so I look at in terms of, actually I was just now I show you, if I'm looking for long term, right, what I use is actually more of a weekly or a daily, because I'm going to for a longer period of time. I'm not going for a few days or a few weeks. I'm going for a few months or even years. So I will look at, usually looking at dailies or weekly. Then yeah, let me see any other question. So someone asked how to actually look at potential support resistance level. Maybe we go back to the PowerPoint first. Give me a moment. I'll say that for me is I can just see it because I see, oh, they are actually touching these points or this. So I just draw circle. From there, draw my next circle, all these points. This is actually how I do, because I see actually they are horizontal across, they are actually touching all these points quite frequently. Actually, I can draw my support resistance level already. So this is actually I do. Like plotting of graph when we go during secondary school, we draw circle. After that, you draw a straight line, the best fit line. So it's something similar, the best fit line. Okay, let me go. So someone asked us, there's no GTD order for stop limit order. Okay, so that's why actually, let me go back to the platform again. So that's why actually I just now talk about CFD, because you can see if stop limit orders, right? CFD actually have a good today order, but if you're actually trading stock wise, right? The stop limit, they do not have actually a stop limit order over here on the GTD. Then in this case, you actually have to use the Polish Mercury platform to do that. So actually CFD wise, they have a lot of advanced order straight away is available over here. Okay, so actually for trend and pattern indicator, right, is actually applicable for stock, applicable for FX, applicable for index, and even cryptocurrency. So actually all these indicators, right, if you start to use them, right, you can realize that it's not just limited to stock. You can use it for FX, you can talk about cryptocurrency, you can talk about indices. So actually, maybe to share more about FX, I can just visit FX over here. There's currently have a new, I'm not sure whether you all receive any information. Give me a moment. So actually we have this USD CANH pair, right? The pitch is actually as low as 6. So this is something that you can do. And also when you are trading FX, right? Sometimes because for normal stock indices, you hold a position overnight, you'll be actually subjected to financing charges. However, if you are trading FX pair, right, you can actually make use of this heat map, this swap point heat map, right? You can see whether you hold a position overnight, where you'll be actually gaining swap points, positive or negative swap points. So for positive swap points, you'll be receiving them. Then negative swap point, you'll be actually required to pay for that. So these are some of the interesting features that you can use over here. Okay, someone asked what is stop price and limit price. Let me see. Let me go back to stop. So limit price, let's say now is 7.44 and 7.46. So if I submit 7.44, so actually I'll be waiting inside the queue after this 34.9K of volume. So this so in case I actually submit 7.6, so actually there's one person who are willing to sell 1,000 at this, so you actually meet my orders. Then stop price, I would say that stop price actually, this is the stop limit orders, because sometimes is that I only want to enter, let's say I only want to enter the trade at 7.5 when actually, let's say there's a resistance at 7.5. I want to buy only when you break up from 7.5. So if I key straight away 7.5, this order will be straight away done even before it hit the breakout. And in case there's a force before it start the downturn from here. So in this case, I will need to use a stop limit order. Here, from here, I can see I can set a step 7.5 and maybe 7.51. So after only hitting this stop limit, right, then this actual order will come in live. So this one is actually the trigger. The actual order is actually this limit order. So you only meet certain condition, then you trigger the actual order to come into the market. Then trigger order, you can set whether is it bid or asking price. When you hit this, then the actual order limit price will go into the market. So maybe for just like I mentioned, for short-term trading or intraday, right? I'll say that for intraday, usually we look at around 15 minutes, half hour, or 1 hour. For CFD trading, shouldn't we be looking at maximum daily trend due to the cost of holding? So I will say that that's why you must important to know whether you are a day trader, intraday, or position. So for me, I'm a position trader. So actually, I don't use CFD. I just hold it for a longer period. So I would say that CFD wise, if you are doing short-term trader or swing trader, this will be actually good to use CFD because it actually help you. But position trader, because you are holding a long period of time, there's financing charges. You may not want to actually use CFD. And also it depends on whether you're actually trading FX. So FX you can gain swap points. Just now I talk about hit the swap points. So in that case, when I'm earning swap points, right, maybe I'll hold a position trade also. Okay, so if you actually download a Mercury platform, right, so you actually can use both Buoyant's mobile, Buoyant's Mercury, or Buoyant's 2.0 web version. So this one doesn't mean that you download the Mercury, you can't use all this. Anytime you can just use different platform. But I would say one thing is that for stock side, all these advanced order is actually on the Mercury. What is the best time to enter intraday? I would say that actually during early in the morning, if you are trading, let's say you are trading Singapore wise, then in the early morning, the market will tend to be more active. Then after that, just after lunchtime, they will be also more active and towards the closing. So what you want to do intraday, you want to enter in the opening and hopefully to close the trade before the market close at 5 p.m., 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So these are the two timelines you need to look out for, enter and close out the position before 5, because you are intraday trader, you want to close the position. Someone actually asked about Fraser property. Okay, let me see Fraser property. I haven't been looking at that. Fraser property wise, actually there's some news over here. Yeah, support is low over here. Okay. So actually there's I'll say that you have to keep a lookout whether they actually break up from here with increasing volume, but you can see actually volume has been, I'll say that people haven't been really looking at this stock much, also get the volume. So subsequently, if you break up with volume, then I expect it to can potentially test this level over here. But something is quite, I'll say that there's nothing interesting at this stage. So you look out for whether it can actually break this resistance level for Fraser property. Then okay, we have come. Let me see. Okay, come towards the end, in case you want to understand about CFD, you need to pass your CKA in order to trade CFD. If not, you have to take quiz. Then, okay, sometimes you want to actually do funding of your account, right? You can transfer from your stock site, submit the form, and do before 10 a.m. You can do the funds to your CFD, or you can do pay now and fast transfer. All these are very easy to do transfer in. All these fund instruction, like maybe I can send you all link how to actually fund your account. Philip. So is funding for your stock side or CFD side. All this information you can find it over here. So all these are straightforward. Then there's also some trading rebates for this $88 promotion. You can actually check out the Phillip CFD website. Then disclaimer, and here is the feedback. So help me to do the feedback. Then in case you all have anything that you want to understand more, you can write down under the last few questions what kind of topic you are interested in. From there, we always come up with new topics over the next few months, then cater to what kind of topic you are interested to find out and improve our webinar. So I think I've come towards the end of my webinar. In case you have any question, feel free to, if you are still have any question after this, you can still ask inside the Telegram group. Give me some time, I'll always get back to you. Okay, thanks for joining and enjoy your night. Thank you.